That's why they did that. And I happened to find out about it. I then, first of all, got it in the national press in Canada, all over the front page of the National Post. Then when I went to the States, I did the same there with a speech in St. Paul, Minnesota, where somebody filmed the peroration, just 4 minutes, and put it up on the web, and 4 million people have seen that now. And I think what has happened is we've panicked them. And so now they're coming out trying to reassure us that global governance isn't such a bad idea after all. Previously, they weren't going to tell us about this. They were going to put that treaty in place. And then we would suddenly wake up and find we were ruled by some ghastly group of little Hitlers in Geneva or somewhere, and that none of our democratically elected governments could do anything about it. We know what it feels like in the UK, because that's what they did to us with the EU. They told us it was just going to be a free trade area, and it's turned into a bureaucratic monster. I was talking, in fact, to the past president of the EU, a wonderful man who is the president of the Czech Republic, Václav Klaus, about this in Washington the other day. We were attending a conference together on the climate, organized by the Washington Times. And he made a wonderful speech there, and I asked him, I said, look, doesn't the whole arrangement at Copenhagen, this treaty that they're proposing to put in place, doesn't it look very much like a reinvention of communism to you? And he stopped and thought, and this is a man who presided over the collapse of communism in his country. He brought it to freedom and was its second president after he won their freedom. So he really knows what it's like to be on the wrong end of the extreme left and communism. And he thought for a moment and he said, well, okay, so we can't yet say that it's going to be as brutal as communism was. But he said, apart from that, the similarities between communism and this treaty are far too many and far too close for comfort. I thought that was a very good answer.
Well, sir, I mean, how can we not look at the police states being erected across the Western world, the surveillance, the citizen spies, British parents having to get a license to go to a public playground with their children, warrantless DNA checkpoints here in the United States. I mean, clearly, we see a world government forming by the bureaucracy that is to be enforced at the barrel of a gun.
Well, I'll tell you what I think we can do about it, because I think we now need to organize. And I think what we need to do is to form the first worldwide political party. And this worldwide political party, which will operate and fight elections in every country, will simply be called the Freedom Party. And it will fight this international, creeping, communistic bureaucracy wherever it finds it, and it will stand up for freedom and its two handmaidens, democracy and prosperity. And every time these people try to take it away, we in the Freedom Party will stop them. And I think that now is the time. I think people are all over the world absolutely fed up to the back teeth with the bureaucratic political class lording it over them in this way, in a way far more intrusive than anything the aristocracy of old used to do or even could do. They're using all the weapons, as you rightly say, of modern surveillance. We have more speed, we have more cameras snooping over the British people than in all the other countries of Europe added together. This is a real police state here. Now, I can't get onto the BBC to say what I'm saying to you. They rang up yesterday and invited me to go on the air, and then within 5 minutes they'd rung up and cancelled. And the reason why was I was going to go on to debate with the leader of the Green Party. And the moment she heard I was coming, she said to the BBC, don't let him on because he'll beat me if he comes on. Let me go on my own because I'll say what you, the BBC, want me to say. And so they cancelled not me, the one who was willing to debate, but her, the one that wasn't. They cancelled me and they let her go on. That's how it now is.
Isn't this a form of
broadcasters here are subservient to the government?
Well, the BBC still, that I've seen, won't report on the email gate. And as you know and reported, sir, they got these 5 weeks before and refused to publish them.
That is another horrifying story, because in the old days, if you were a journalist and some news came your way, even if it was news that you didn't agree with politically, you knew what news was. You reported it. You could add caveats that maybe it was stolen. You could add caveats that maybe you didn't approve of it, but you still reported it. The BBC is now so politicized, so utterly the creature of the communistic bureaucratic class that now runs the whole of Europe, whether our elected governments like it or not, and far too many of them do like it, alas, that we no longer have free speech on the air in this country. and most of the newspapers won't touch it either. There's only been 2 newspapers here that have really reported in any depth what is in these emails. The rest of them have loftily remained, they're still wittering on about how the global warming will spread malaria or drown the Maldives or cause floods and droughts or melt the Arctic ice cap and make the poor polar bears suffer. There are 5 times as many polar bears now as there were 40 years ago, hardly, as you may think, the profile of a species in imminent threat of extinction.
And Lord Monckton, as you say, that it's an official government number. They're all over the place, and I have seen the last week since these emails got leaked an intensification of scientists coming out and saying, we're all dead, pass it now. It seems like they are panicking, and a lot of people that were on the fence about this are really starting to wake up because of the ridiculous, alarmist statements by Al Gore and others.
I think there is definitely now the stink of desperation in the alarmist shrieking noises that we're hearing. They know they've been rumbled. They know they've been found out. They know the Bunko booth is about to be closed down, and their little scam, in fact, it's rather a large scam, is no longer going to go any further. And they are absolutely desperate to try to force this treaty through in Copenhagen. They're going to try to make sure that Obama never reads about the emails from the Climate Research Unit. You know, they have so many other things to read, these heads of state. If the bureaucrats don't want them to know about something, they can make sure they don't find out about it. And Obama probably doesn't even know these emails have happened. Even if he does know, I don't think he would care, but I don't think they will have even told him. Because he wants to be able to have plausible deniability. Oh, gee, I never knew that when I went ahead and signed this treaty, which ended our Constitution.
Plausible deniability.
Jefferson earlier. May I quote Jefferson to you?
Yes, sir.
He is the founder of Obama's party, the founder of the Democrat Party, and this is what he said. He said, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every tyranny over the mind of man. Now what we're faced with is a tyranny worldwide over the mind and body of man. And it is the duty of every red-blooded United States citizen to oppose with every fiber of his being what is being done in his name by this administration to try to sign away your Constitution at Copenhagen. I went onto the Hill recently, and I went to see one of your greatest constitutional experts. He's a young lawyer. All you can see in his office is piles of books everywhere. And he sat me down on a pile of books, as it happened, and even before I'd sat down, he said, this treaty trumps the United States Constitution. This, he said, will be the end of the United States as we know it. That is how close your country is going to come to being extinguished. Ours has largely already gone because the European commissars, whom we don't elect, now make 90% of our laws. But I don't want to see the beacon of freedom to the rest of the world, which is what the United States is. I don't want to see the United States going the same way. So if you are listening to this radio station, then get off your bottom, get out of that lounger, get a pen and paper, get hold of the number of the U.S. Senate, and ring the U.S. Senate, and ask to speak to both of your senators. Do not be fobbed off with an intern or a secretary. Make sure you speak to a senior staffer, at least, the senator himself if possible, and make it known that the Treaty of Copenhagen shall not pass. That's what you can do in the week that you have remaining to save your country and its democracy and the world's freedom that depends on your democracy.
Well said, Lord Monckton. Absolutely incredible. Again, you're a godsend. At the time you exploded on the scene after years of speaking out, you know, it caught fire in the minds of men and women everywhere. Then these emails and documents, the code coming out where there's notes by the programmers how to engage in fraud, the notes about persecution, emails with John P. Holdren in there, and all this news in the Times of London, billionaire club and bid to curb overpopulation, secret meetings by the elites. And that's my next question for you, sir, in the time we have left. You've worked at the highest levels of the British government for 10 Downing Street as a top advisor to Margaret Thatcher. You're a high-level, lord in the House of Lords. You have a great old British family behind you. You know a lot of the elites. What is the real split in the power structure? Because we know the socialist, communist, globalists don't have full control yet. They're trying to get it now. What is the real power structure? Because we see George Soros. We see a lot of other big, rich billionaires, the Rockefellers, behind this man-made climate change global government move. I mean, bottom line, who are these people to humanity? Who are they to you? Who are the real enemies of humanity?
The enemies of humanity are those who think that they know best what's good for you, the little guy. You and me, the little guy. They think they know best what is good for us. Anybody who has that attitude does not deserve to hold a high office, but all too often they do. And it is very important to understand how arrogant these people are. But there is always hope, because although money such as that which George Soros has, or Bill Gates at Microsoft, any of these people who have in one way or another indicated their belief in the global warming nonsense, although money buys you power,